Evening and welcome. I'm Catherine. Time and presence are the greatest gifts that we can give. Thank you so much for sharing those with me tonight, especially to anyone who dealt with I-43 to get here. You deserve special sainthood. This evening, we're going to go behind the scenes of awakening, and we're going to touch on the following: how awakening came about, catching poems and photography, the editing process, poems and images from awakening, and a preview of my latest collection. How awakening came about. In 2020, the combination of a global pandemic, milestone birthday, and ending of my 30-year relationship brought the following query. If I asked to attest I was living a genuine life, could I? As the external world shut down and connections severed, my internal world opened and connections to self, others, nature, and spirituality deepened. Reconnection to self. During that time of upheaval, I came across the following quote: "You can either cross the line and face the consequences, or stare at that line for the rest of your life." And I asked myself, am I leading an authentic life without regret? And the answer was a definite no. At that point, I set forth to make the changes necessary to align with true self. Reconnection to others. The song Underdog by Alicia Keys emerged as the pandemic was raging. I was inspired by its message of holding space for the humanity of others through curiosity and compassion. During my wonderful walks through Cedarburg, I reached out to others in the spirit of that song. And as a result, I've made wonderful new friends, and I'm looking at them right now, and it's just so awesome. Reconnection to nature. My connection with nature started in Vermont Park at the onset of the pandemic. I visited daily and took pictures of the lake. I would sit in my car and edit them down and came up with a beautiful photographic journal of what was happening. That process of being in nature grounded me as normalcy became abnormal. I sought comfort in that park on the day I filed for divorce, and I went there as soon as my divorce was finalized. My connection with nature wonderfully continued in Cedarburg. As I started my tradition of taking walks, I started finding hearts everywhere. If you look at the front and back covers of my book, you can see the hearts that I found. There's also many hearts within the book, and it was something I'd never had happen to me before, and it just filled me with awe and magic and contentment. Reconnection to spirituality. Once my new connection to self, others, and nature was forged, a spiritual practice emerged. My spiritual practice is something I enjoy 4 times a day. It focuses on gratitude, recognition of the abundance I have in my life, and prayer. Catching poems and photography. Catching poems. My poetry writing process is impromptu. I never sit down and decide it's time to write poems. They simply come to me. My thoughts materialize into poems, and that allows me to process internal and external events happening around me. They're almost like an answer to a prayer I never asked for, and I catch them a lot when I'm out on walks. I practice something called silent walks. There was a wonderful article in New York Times recently extolling the virtue of being on a walk without any technology. So if you ever see me on my walk through Cedarburg with my baseball hat on and my fanny pack, madly typing into my phone, I've just caught a poem. Photography. Observing nature's beauty quiets my mind and keeps me in the present, and it allows me to revel in the extraordinary in the ordinary. The editing process. I wanted to illustrate my journey through poetic storytelling and compelling photographs. I reviewed my over 100 poems, and I divided them into categories. Categories were ending of season, referring to my marriage, pandemic, love and longing, nature's lessons, and arriving at wholeness. If you look at my book, you're going to notice that the first 3 pictures appear in black and white, and then the pictures transition to color. That was intentional to show my my heart and my world opening up. At this point in our talk, what I'd like to do is share some of the poems in my book that fit each of the categories that I just mentioned. We're going to start with Ending of Season, and I'm going to be sharing High Dive and Bravest Act. Next, please. This picture was shot at Vermont Park, and one of the things that really struck me about it is even though it looks like things may be coming apart, they are, in fact, still intact and strong. High dive. Jumping off the high dive is daunting. Moving forward requires hitting bottom and having faith in resurfacing. Backing away means hovering over a safety net of concrete. Breathe, focus, release. Next, please. The next poem I'd like to share with you is called Bravest Act. This picture, you can't see it quite as well on the screen, but it's 2 coffee mugs. Even the day after I filed for divorce, I always made coffee. I don't refer to my previous husband as an ex. I call him erstwhile because we get along really well. It's a very gentle and beautiful parting. But the day after I filed for divorce, there was coffee for 2. This picture was taken on the day he left our marital home and moved into his new place. And when I was struggling with what to do and making the change, one of my friends gave me one of the most beautiful thoughts. She said, "Catherine, there is no such thing as one-way liberation." And this picture serves to remind me that there can be a gentle release when a reason or season has come to a close. Bravest act. Just because the flesh underneath has atrophied does not make yanking off the bandage any less painful. The next category, next please. The next category I'd like to touch on is the poems I wrote related to the pandemic. Again, this is one of the hearts I found on the sidewalk. I never stage my pictures. I never embellish my pictures. Just a beautiful heart etched into the sidewalk, accented with a beautiful young leaf. Wasteland. As everyday normalcy is viciously uprooted, I remain planted in humor and love. Can I still count on you to bolster my garden? Next, please. This is a lovely example of the hearts that I find. I've found more foliage hearts in the last year than I have in my whole life. Just everywhere I look, there's just beautiful hearts. And it was just really inspiring to me because people would just look at the flowers and see beautiful purple flowers. And I just looked at it and saw hearts. And it just brought just a beautiful moment of awe and contentment. Blinders. I close my eyes to the folly of current events, focusing instead on the affairs of my heart. Next, please. The next category of poems I'd like to share with you today is my love and longing poems. I have 3 of them I'd like to share with you today: Lighthouse and Ship, Floating Dock, and Moth and Flame. This picture was shot in Vermont Park, and it's very unique to me because I went there for months during the pandemic, and that day I just happened to catch birds, and it just had this really magical effect. Lighthouse and Ship. Although the wayfaring ship makes no physical contact with the lighthouse, its magnificent radiance nevertheless affects the trajectory of her journey. Next, please. This picture was also captured at Vermont Park. I had never seen clouds vertically oriented lined up like that. It was just the most striking, magical thing. And if you have the book, it's even more pronounced. But it was just this beautiful Otherworldly experience, that's all I can say. Floating dock. I am your safe harbor in the vastness of the unbound ocean. There are no lighthouses leading to me, only sanguine circles. Moor yourself to my steadfast planks, and together we will ride out exuberant wave after exuberant wave after exuberant wave. Fate makes no promise of next week, forever, or tomorrow. We are simply entangled with one another right here, right now. As you drift back to familiar shores, gaze into my eyes until the expanse between us becomes too great. When you recount the tale of how passion and infatuation were stronger than fiber, chain, or wire, may you forever think of me. Next, please. This was captured in a park in Cedarburg. Mark, this is the park. This is the park where we met. And I just loved the fall color and just this beautiful path that was leading somewhere, didn't know where, but somewhere beautiful, I was sure. Moth and flame. I think of us as a two-part epoxy, our separation of horizonless miles preventing an incendiary reaction. When we finally become commingled, our roughened veneers will only facilitate the process of bonding. Next, please. The next category is nature's lessons, and I'll be sharing nature's nurturing nudge and impactful impact. This is nature's nurturing nudge. I was walking in Cedarburg, looked up, and it was the most beautiful red foliage with a little peak of moon, just utterly breathtaking. Nature's nurturing nudge. Not unlike a deciduous tree, the human soul eases into a state of rejuvenation after achieving glorious transformation. Next, please. Now, this is a little bit tricky. This is actually a snow heart. I was relaxing, looking out my patio door, which is what I call it, and there was a perfectly formed inverse heart on my stoop. And as I said, it's clear in the book, but it just was so striking and so beautiful. I get so excited by nature. There might have been some clapping and some happiness, but how often do you find stuff like that? It's pretty darn awesome. Impactful impact. Some snowflakes travel far to singularly disappear upon impact. Other snowflakes travel far to collectively combine upon impact into something larger. Next, please. Now, this is one of my all-time favorite pictures. Again, it may not be quite as obvious as to what it is. I found a tree eye a couple of years ago, and it really struck me as magnificent and bold. And when I got home to edit, if you look right over here, perfectly formed heart. So it was like a double whammy of fabulousness. That was pretty awesome. And the poem it is paired with is named Ajna, which is a reference to the third eye chakra. Ajna. Sometimes a scar isn't the disillusionment of what was, but the beginning of what's meant to be. Next, please. This is a fabulous shot. I was walking along Cedarburg, approaching the train tracks. Some beautiful human left a little red toy train. And I just sat there and I wonder how it got there. Was it an adult? Was it a child? And then I caught the poem I'm about to read. But it was just the most beautiful sense of magic and awe and wonder. And, if your eyes are open, beautiful things appear. Getaway Train. I lost myself in the idea of what could be to survive what was. Next, please. And this is a very impactful picture for me. I'm actually wearing that necklace today. I wear it almost every single day. And what it says is bravery, confidence, and faith. When I entered into my marriage, I said vows. When I set forth on my new life, I decided to make vows to myself, and I pledged to move forward with bravery, with confidence, and with faith. And those words are part of my spiritual practice every single day. And I wear this as a reminder of a beautiful reason and season and beautiful things to come. Rebirth. For all the stress, for all the fear, for all the uncertainty, I am here. I was about to say next, please, but there isn't any next. So the poems that I shared with you were from Awakening. Once you publish one book, people are always questioning, is there another one? Yes, there is. There was 100 poems when Awakening came into the world. I'm up to 180 right now. So my goal is to publish the next one in 2024. And what I thought I would do tonight is give you guys a little bit of a preview of what's to come. Oops. So what I find is any type of art is an evolving process. And I found a bunch of categories that I really found as a theme in Awakening. And I was observing the poetry that I've been writing recently, and I found some interesting categories coming up. Categories I'm now seeing are roles we play, nature is sensei, what is, and matters of the heart. So for roles we play, I'm going to share two of my poems with you, Autonomy and Apple and Tree. Autonomy. When you choose to let go of the handlebars and cease running alongside the bike, it actually liberates you both. Apple and Tree. Your terrestrial body grew inside mine. Your celestial spirit was already complete. I planted virtues, living in strict accordance with them. Your heart served as a sieve, filtering them to match your truth. You needed my body to belong to this earth, but you never belonged to me. For my category on nature and nature as sensei, I'd like to share armor with you and savior of self. Armor. Not unlike rough bark concealing the life story of a tree, defense mechanisms protect the brutal truth of the heart. Savior of self. Looking to others to restore wholeness brings the same despondency as attempting to return airborne dandelion seeds to their stem. The next category is my what is category. In case you're wondering, what is? When the pandemic was raging, I never liked the term new normal. To me, what happened, it just was not something I could process. I started referring to it as what is. We're moving forward from this. It is what is. So that's what is. So the first poem I'd like to share with you is Thirst. It's only by detaching your bucket from the empty well that you'll find satiation. Lockdown. When the caged bird discovers the door has always been open, that creates more disquietude than perceived captivity. Finally, I've got my matters of the heart section. I'm going to be sharing Calling the Shot and retitling. Calling the Shot. My needs used to go unspoken for fear of losing you. My needs are now freely spoken with confidence in finding me. Retitling. When you came into the picture, my untethered pieces lay scattered at your feet. Now I am the glue holding the whole together. So I have just had the pleasure of sharing poetry with you. Does anybody have any questions or comments they would care to share with me? All right, then. So I would like to give two really big thank yous right now. If you look over at that beautiful table, my friend Julie has provided us with lovely fall treats, and I am so grateful for that. I would like to thank Jeff today for providing taping of our talk. And Sarah has helped me get this talk ready, doing PR, doing all of the organization. Sarah created this beautiful PowerPoint for me, and I'm just so grateful for everything they did to contribute to tonight. And thank you all for letting me share my vulnerable heart with you. Have a wonderful evening.